This episode of Get Real is brought to you by the following sponsor.
Mom! Hey, Mom!
Parents in bed, but it's just 8 o'clock. That's why they taught you should always knock. You need Ragu, 'cause growing up's tough. Give it Ragu, he's been through enough.
A long day of childhood calls for America's favorite pasta sauce.
That's why they call it the jungle, sweetheart. No ticket. My name is Indiana Jones. Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes? Oh, rats. I hate these guys.
Oh my god. I didn't know you had that. Not surprised.
I'm retiring.
Well, in that case, what are we drinking?
Same for the goddaughter.
Indy's back, baby! He's back!
He's back.
Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. It's finally here. It's finally out, and we finally saw it. Okay, analysis.
Oh, it smells like carrots and throw up.
No, it's not that bad. But no, yeah. Let's get right into it. Yeah, hi. Welcome. I'm Hot Toddy. That's Bob, and welcome to an all-new episode of Get
Real.
And on this episode, of course, we're talking about, if you haven't figured it out, Indiana Jones and the Dial
of Destiny.
The final chapter in the Indiana Jones saga. Ms. Pengrino, your thoughts on Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny?
It was long
Stop tape for discussion.
and probably not necessary in the saga, but I enjoyed it.
So, meh.
Meh. I mean, if you know, yeah, I will talk more about it, but meh. There were pros, there were cons.
There were seasons in the sun.
What?
Okay.
More analysis.
I smell like hot, sick ass and a dead carcass.
No, it really wasn't that bad. The movie, it was long.
It was long.
And you're right, I don't think it was needed. I felt like the franchise kind of went out with a grand whimper. I said this when we got out of the film. It was sluggish.
It really was. It dragged.
It was kind of brilliant. I don't think it was intentional, but it made me laugh because it felt like an old man trying to do something big and exciting, but he can't because he's old, and so he was very sluggish, and that's kind of how Harrison Ford was in this movie. He was a little sluggish through the film.
He's old.
We love Harrison Ford, and we love. I think it was great that he put on the old fedora one last time for us, but I think it was one time too many.
One time too many. That's for me though. Most sequels. I was telling Hot Toddy this earlier. Most sequels past 3, I'm really kind of done with. I don't necessarily think they're necessary. We're just extending a story at this point.
It's, you think about Star Wars. Star Wars has gone on for years, but they always put the stories into trilogies.
Yeah.
And then
sets of 3.
Sets of 3, and then
3 are good.
And then that's it. And then a new story starts, or in the case of the prequels, an old story starts that we haven't heard of yet. So, it's weird. But that's why I was saying it was sluggish, because it was literally like an old man trying to do something, and it just went on and on. Even in Crystal Skull, like as not popular as that movie is, there was always something happening. There was always something. They were going to the next location. The next location, they would learn something and go to the next location. This movie was like, okay, we're going here. Car chase.
car chase.
Very long car
Explosion.
chase. A very long car chase, and then
Guns.
and then just kind of meandering around, and then another big chase, and then meandering, and it just kind of went on like that, and that's a problem because it then becomes kind of repetitive.
Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, it was like, in every Indiana Jones film, there's like this really great action chase scene. It always happens, towards the end of the movie. It's this really big chase action movie scene. And in this movie, we got two, and neither one was fun. Neither one was exciting.
I mean, the last one was okay. But it's kind of like that they needed action.
As a matter of fact, at one point in the movie, there's going to be some spoilers. We're not going to do a whole lot of spoilers. I don't want to spoil the whole thing, but there's going to be some spoilers. There was one scene where they're escaping from Antonio Banderas' boat and got on another boat. And for a minute, I forgot that Indy was a part of the story. I saw he was like the last. He was the last person to jump on the boat. And I was like, oh, that's right. This is Indiana Jones movie. I just forgot about that. Yeah.
So that's kind of one of the meh for me. He got left behind.
He did
in this movie.
Yeah.
For so many things, like some of the chases and some of this, and then like when the bad guys first meet the person that they're chasing, it ain't Indy. Like, Indy is not the one that they're chasing.
They don't really care about Indiana Jones.
Well, I mean, they do wind up.
They don't really care about
him, but they give no poops about him.
They don't really care about Indiana Jones. He just kind of falls into the adventure at this time, and which is fine, because regardless, you want Indy to be a part of the adventure. But that's very much exactly what it is. Now, I mentioned that the two car chases weren't fun. I actually think I'm going to amend one of those. I think the first car chase was really fun. The one through New York, where he gets on horseback. Because I thought that was going to be kind of stupid, but it turned out to be pretty fun. Like, that was a classic Indiana Jones
and I think
chase scene.
The second one was fun with the tuk-tuk.
Oh, no.
Just because that went up and down so many stairs. It did go on too long.
It went on way too long.
It did. You're right.
And that's the problem. And that's the problem that this movie faces, that so many movies that have big franchises like this face.
Every scene was about 30 seconds to a minute too long.
It was too long, and that's important to point out. It became very repetitive. It was, let's do this, okay, let's do that, okay. Two big car chases, and so it became repetitive, and so I felt like there was a lot of this you could cut out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
for sure.
They were saying this movie's like 2.5 hours. You could have taken an hour out, and you would have been just fine, because there was a lot of stuff that you just didn't need. It just didn't work. And talking about this problem is something that older franchises tend to have. A great example of a franchise that keeps working is Mission Impossible. The reason why Mission Impossible works is because, well, the thing about it is those movies are consistently good. Those movies have very good storylines, very good plots, great characters, and character development. They're coming out with another one this summer, and it looks great. It's part one of a two-part story. They've been doing this franchise for almost 30 years, and every movie that comes out is really, really good. So that's a problem that Indiana Jones faces, is that it is a franchise that didn't continue on for years and years and years.
Yeah.
Mission Impossible kept going and kept it fresh and kept up with what they were doing and made it better each time. Whereas Indiana Jones did that in the 80s. You had those first 3 movies, and then we waited 20 years, almost 20 years, and got Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and then we kind of forgot how to do things. We kind of forgot how to write the story. It was again. I always say Kingdom of the Crystal is not a terrible movie. I like the movie.
It's actually one of my favorites. I know I'm going to be the standalone.
It's not one of my it's not one of my favorites, but it's definitely. I don't hate any of the Indiana Jones movies, including Dial of Destiny. But that's the thing, is that they kind of forgot how to do it, and then they did it, and then we waited another 15 years, and now it's kind of fallen off the cliff. We pushed it off the cliff. Whereas movies like Mission Impossible, you keep it active, you keep it going, it's always solid. James Bond is another franchise. You keep it going, you keep it solid. They even took risks. They were in 2006. It's like, listen, let's stop making about the ladies' man, and let's instead do something grittier. And they did the Daniel Craig movies, and those worked great. They were so positive. They were so positive that their movies were always going to do well, that they actually took risks, and the risks worked. As much as I can't stand them, the Fast and the Furious movies, people still flock to those movies.
They still go.
Because it is a franchise that has kept going. It's hard for people to get excited about Indiana Jones when the last really good film that came out was 35 years ago, almost 34. It was,
Older than us.
No, it's all right. Sorry, it was 34 years ago, and then the last one in general came out 15 years ago. So it's hard to.
Do you think they just tried to make this one because Crystal Skull bombed so bad that they were trying to
I don't
come back?
No.
To bring Indy in good light.
I think they legitimately wanted to keep it going. I think they wanted to make at least one more.
Yeah.
I don't really know the full story behind why they wanted to do another one, why they even wanted. Well, I do know why they wanted to do Crystal Skull, because they just wanted to do another one. But I think they were trying to give some real closure. I think they were trying to do closure with Crystal Skull, but the movie was just too cartoony and got made fun of so bad over the last 15 years that they were like, we need a better conclusion. So they did this, and
they included a lot of things.
It was a very slow burn conclusion. It was a very it took its time.
Yeah. It took 2.5 hours.
It took way too long for it to actually get the point across. But again, that wouldn't have been a problem if this was a franchise they continued to do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just my theory. I think that's how it works. It's like if you continuously do a franchise, you're always bound to improve. And again, Mission Impossible, Fast and the Furious, and James Bond, great example of those. Star Wars isn't an example because they did the original 3, then waited 16 years and started another 3, then waited another 10 years and did more, and they progressively got where. Again, there's some that I like in the prequels and the sequels, but they progressively got worse, and nobody really likes Star Wars movies anymore. I mean, they still make a ton of money. The TV shows still make a ton of money.
People will still go,
but it's the quality of the franchise has gone away. And a lot of people believe, and I kind of agree, that the quality of the franchise kind of went away after Return of the Jedi. That was the end of the story. You should have just kind of stopped there. Whereas Indiana Jones, I mean, Last Crusade, Indy, his dad, Sala, and Marcus Brody, they ride off into the sunset together. But you leave it ambiguous at that point because there could be more to that story. There's so much. There could be more to do. But then they never did anything until about 20 years later, and it was like, oh, this is what you're gonna do.
Okay. This is what they're gonna do.
Okay. But yeah, so just the movie was slow. It was too slow, and again, the movie is kind of forgettable because Indiana Jones is kind of forgettable in this movie. I don't feel like he spoke very much, and he just didn't do very much. And the stuff that he did, I'm sorry, this time it looked like an old man trying to do things.
I mean, even when walking.
Yeah, there's a scene where they're in a cave and they're climbing and he's having trouble and he's like, "Look, I'm just old, okay? I
got plates in my hips. I got this.
I've been through hell my entire life." Even brings up the Temple of Doom stuff that he went through, drinking the blood of whatever what is it? The blood of I forget. Oh God, I forgot.
Galima. I don't know.
Galima. The name of the
That was one of my least favorite Indianas, so I don't really know
I like
much
Temple of the Doom, but
Galima.
He drinks the blood, and then I got tortured by
voodoo doll.
By voodoo doll. He was like, I've been through it all. And it's just like I'm just tired of it. That's what it was. It was really.
I'm tired.
Yeah. The movie even starts with him being an old man. I mean, in the beginning, there's
a crotchety old man.
There's a flashback to back during World War II. But when we cut to present time, he literally goes down and says, "You're playing your music too loud," to his neighbors. You're being too loud. And I'm just like, oh no, this is where we find Indiana Jones, at this point in his life.
I mean, I really don't feel like this movie should have been called Indiana Jones.
Well, I mean, obviously, yeah, because Phoebe Waller-Bridge,
she did most of the work, and it was mostly about her
playing Helena Shaw, his goddaughter.
What the hell is even that?
Yeah, she did a lot of the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
So much so that they're even talking about maybe doing a spin-off series of her going on adventures now.
That's too much.
It's not that I don't like her, and it's not that that wouldn't be a great idea.
It's just that's too much.
That might be pushing the limit because this movie, I know it sounds like I'm dogging it a lot, but I did like it. It's without a doubt not one of my favorite indie movies.
It's kind of like if they did a spin-off. I mean, having an archaeologist type person. I mean, she's not an archaeologist, but having an archaeologist type
person. She got her degree in archaeology.
What the hell is even that?
Like having this type of person.
How'd you see that?
Because I can see it in the camera.
I did not know that.
I mean, it would definitely keep that type of movie around, like the treasure hunter type movie. But the problem with
Grave robber.
Yeah, the problem with that for me is the Indiana Jones was your treasure hunter movie. Like nothing ever is really gonna compare to that.
Yeah.
It's always gonna be in comparison to that. So it'd be weird.
But in the same beat though, like maybe they could do a TV show with her. Because you think about the Star Wars TV shows like The Mandalorian, people love The Mandalorian. Obi-Wan came out last year. It was huge.
True.
Everyone loved that. So these spin-off series, and you think of Marvel, Loki, you think about those, these when you do spin-off stuff, it works better in TV shows. So if they were to give Phoebe Waller-Bridge her own Helena Shaw TV show, kind of like a Librarians. Remember that show?
I loved that show. I'm so sad that got canceled.
Or Warehouse 13.
I loved that show.
Exactly, and those movies or those shows had super low budgets. This is Disney we're talking about, so they're going to go all out for her. They could really make something out of that. So
somebody bring back Warehouse 13.
I would champion.
So good.
Oh,
it was good, and I loved it.
You won't even play the board game.
The board game was a, what are those called?
This?
Peepees and wee-wees.
Yeah.
No, like a Kickstarter. It was a Kickstarter game.
That plus crap.
Okay, so I have no idea how to play. It came in multiple thousands of pieces. Thousands of pieces.
Billions and billions.
So I just haven't broken down to build because I don't know how many pieces it's going to be in, and I don't even know what it entails. Plus, normally nobody even knows what Warehouse 13 is.
Shut up! Oh my God, I don't care!
You hate me.
But anyway, giving Phoebe, but obviously this is Disney we're talking about, so Phoebe Waller-Bridge's show would have a huge budget.
Yeah,
I'm championing for that. I don't do a spin-off movie. Do spin-off TV show and give her own series. Let her do her thing, and I think it would go above and beyond. And so she was a highlight of the movie. I really liked her. I liked her attitude. She was, she wasn't someone that would suck up to Indiana Jones. She had a very Marion Ravenwood type, just without the sexual attraction, because she's his goddaughter. So you have like the strength of like Marion Ravenwood, and well,
she's a replication of his son.
Yeah, that's it. I was gonna say that's it. She had the female form of Marion Ravenwood, a mixture of that and Mutt, who wasn't his son, who wasn't afraid to get in his face.
How did you end up like this?
I mean, resourceful, daring, beautiful, self-sufficient.
So, and his dad too. She knew how to take him down a peg.
Mm-hmm.
So it was sort of like an embodiment of Marion Ravenwood, Henry Jones Sr. and Mutt kind of put together to kind of ground Indy. So I really liked her character. So yeah, I would like to see her in more stuff. Maybe not a movie, just because
not a movie.
Sequel movies just don't do well, and that's
Spin-off movies
that would
definitely
that
don't
would
do
kill.
well.
No, yeah. I mean, there are some successful ones. The Fast and the Furious. You had Hobbs and Shaw a few years ago with The Rock and Jason Statham. So that was a big deal. It's Dwayne Johnson. Sorry, I still call him The Rock. I can't help myself. But Dwayne, that was a big hit movie.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Just put it in the middle.
Suck my.
That's in poor taste.
Okay, there we go.
I quit. I'm leaving.
Anyway, yeah, I liked her a lot. But the movie overall, I mean, it was fine. It was definitely an Indiana Jones adventure, which I like. I always like a fun Indiana Jones adventure. But it was a little sluggish. It just felt like it was hitting the beats. It felt like they were just trying to get through it. Like, let's just get through this last film so we can call it a day.
We have a list. Let's hit these points.
That's right,
Bye-bye.
Miss Pengrino. Let's hit all the beats. Let's do the thing. Let's get out. Let's make the money. Let's do the thing. So it just.
Let's do the damn thing.
They were literally just they were literally.
Let's shoot this fucker.
Exactly. So it was. I mean, it was just a lot.
Perfect, let's shoot. It's not going to get any better.
So, but again, that's not a terrible thing. It just kind of made it sluggish, like I said.
It's still an enjoyable film.
Yeah.
It's just a very long film.
It's a little bit. Now, something very important that we need to point out here. Spoiler! Mutt is dead.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Shia LaBeouf's character is dead. He died in Vietnam.
Why?
Which is a very real, like, that was a common sentence you heard a lot in the 60s, was died in Vietnam. He decided to become a soldier, basically to shove it in Indy's face. That was a very sad story.
That was hurt. Yeah, that was hard.
He basically had a falling out with his son, because I don't think even he wanted to join the army. It was just Indy's insistence of like trying to control his life. In the end, he's like, you know what, screw you, I'm going to join the army. He does, goes to Vietnam, and he dies. And it puts a huge strain on his and Indy's and Marion's relationship to the point that they are divorcing. So that was sad.
Because like Indy talks about it being he feels like it's his fault because he did it to just defy him.
Right, and that was heavy.
And that he was filled with grief, Marion was filled with grief, and so like neither one could help each other with their grief.
And I have mixed feelings about that, because I, like many Indy fans, wasn't the biggest fan of Shia LaBeouf's character in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. That being said, I didn't hate the character. He's very much, in my mind, like the Wesley Crusher of Indiana Jones. It's like, I didn't hate him, but he was annoying in certain spots.
You didn't need to kill him off.
But you didn't need, and that's the thing. It's like I didn't hate him enough that you had to kill him. Good God, like he could
have just been still fighting in the war,
or he could be off getting his PhD somewhere.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Just like in Force Awakens, you were expecting, I bet Han Solo's a general now. I bet he's like, or maybe he's like second in command of the galaxy. No. His life sucked so bad he went back to smuggling. So it was basically sort of that kind of wake up call, and it was very, very sad. But I did like it because it was another one of those. You get these in every single one of the Indiana Jones movies. It held a historical like message.
Yeah.
From, like, you get those in all the Indiana Jones movies. Like in Crystal Skull, you dealt with obviously communism.
I'm a capitalist. And I pay.
And the rise of communism and the fear of communists being on American soil, and then also the fear of the atomic bomb when Indiana Jones accidentally sets foot onto a test site, and then this shit happens. And that was stupid, but like, so the threat of nuclear war, and then after it was all over, there was the fear of blacklisting because he was associated with someone who was a communist. The FBI grilled him, and was like, you know, you this is basically it. He loses his job, you know, all these horrible things, getting blacklisted for just knowing a communist. So like that was the message in that film, you know, a lot of communist messages, and then of course all the messages of fascism in Raiders and Last Crusade, and how you couldn't really trust anybody back then because anybody could have been a Nazi. You didn't know. And so and then this was sort of another one of those historical messages of the sadness and the family tearing apart of Vietnam.
I think you kind of needed this because that was that moment where Helena like realized they both lost somebody close, and that, you know, because she was like, well, where were you, Indy, after I lost my dad? And he was like, I was going through stuff. And she never knew. And then this kind of like explained it. So I guess he had to have some like real heartbreak to make that bond happen. So I guess I kind of get it.
But as much as I hated that Mutt had to die for the franchise, I appreciated the message. I appreciate including him in one of those historical messages of the Indy franchise. But that leads me to the point that this movie was not very dark, but it's a lot darker than the other ones.
Much darker than most Indy.
It's still probably not as dark as Temple of Doom, but it's still pretty dark, because innocent civilians get just shot at point blank range. People get murdered in this movie. Antonio Banderas is in this movie, and then he's not.
For 2 seconds.
He literally, you know, they built his casting up for like days, or days. I said months. Like, oh, Antonio Banderas is going to be in Indiana Jones. It's going to be great. He barely had any lines. He was in like 2 scenes, and then he gets murdered.
Yeah.
Bitch, are you for real?
And then it's a sad moment, because even after they escape, he's like, my friend just got murdered.
My friend just died.
It's just another realization for Indy about, you know, just how life is anymore, and that's what this movie was really about. It was just, oh my God, like all these crazy things happening. So it was a lot darker than like you know, the first one and the third and fourth one. Still, I think it would compete with Temple of Doom, but yeah, the whole Antonio Banderas thing, I was like, why was he even cast in this thing if they were just going to cast him aside, no pun intended, so quickly? It just didn't make any sense.
Yeah. I think they were just trying to get, you know, those elderly people who were popular in there.
Sure.
Why I like to be nude.
For a little bit, like say, hey, we have this person in here.
Whoever you want, bring them in.
Done.
Doesn't matter.
They're probably gonna die, but it's fine.
Let's quickly talk about the ending before we lose battery power here. The time travel aspect of the whole thing. Of course, the MacGuffin in the film is the Dial of Destiny. They're trying to steal it from another Nazi. That bothers me because that felt like kind of a cop-out that we went back to the Nazis, you know?
Yeah.
I just
felt
felt
like never leave the Nazis.
Right.
Like, I feel like the whole thing, except the first one, was about Nazis.
I guess when you think about Indiana Jones, you think about him fighting Nazis. I guess that's the main thing, other than, you know, of course, Crystal Skull was with the communists, but that was in the 50s. Obviously, communism was a problem, not Nazism at that point. And in Temple of Doom, they completely got rid of the Nazi aspect and made it about this cult, which was completely outside of those historical messages that I was talking about. Temple of Doom doesn't have one of those. No. It's really its own standalone movie when you think about it. But yeah, like so it's like, okay, we're going back to the Nazis. The movie starts with him in World War II fighting against the Nazis, and he gets his hands on the Dial of Destiny and whatnot. And so that's the MacGuffin. And, you know, at the end of every indie movie, there's always that moment of supernatural.
Yeah.
It's minor moments. They're very memorable moments, but they're minor. Again, excluding Temple of Doom. There's like supernatural.
Just take that one out, guys.
Let's not talk about Temple of Doom. Let's talk about Raiders, Crusade, Skull, and this one. Yeah. There's those last moments of supernatural. Obviously, the Ark of the Covenant, and melting faces in the first one.
Yep.
The chalice from the palace, what I like to call it as, but it's the Holy Grail.
Turning him to dust.
Turning the man into dust and a horrible skeleton-looking man. It's awful. And then in Crystal Skull, of course, we find out that aliens existed. Oh, and so there were aliens for a minute, and they zap away, and then that's it. This actually takes that above and beyond, because spoilers, they go back in time. They think that they're going to go back to 1939 because Mads Mikkelsen, the actor.
What?
The actor that played the bad guy in this movie wants to go back in time and kill Hitler so that he can take over because he knows...
He can be Hitler.
Right, because he knows all of Hitler's mistakes, why they lost the war. And he thinks the Dial of Destiny will be able to take him there. As it turns out, because... what was the name of the philosopher that... Estrades? S. That's not right.
Who am I? What am I?
Archimedes.
Archimedes.
Yeah. Archimedes. It's fine. We know our ancient names.
Philosophers.
It's fine. Yeah. Archimedes created this thing, and what happens is he didn't know about continental drift when creating it, so the Dial of Destiny could only take you back to when Archimedes lived, which was in the BC period during the siege of Syracuse in Sicily.
He made it to purposely come back to him.
Right, because he needed help.
It had nothing to do with continental drift. That was just what Indy threw out to try and convince the dude not to go.
No, there was continental drift. He knew that they weren't going to go back in time, or at least not to the time he thought they was going to.
Whatever. Right. He had no idea. He was just trying to throw something out there to keep them from going into this like little portal storm.
But he understood that continental drift. So because I don't know all the science behind it, but there's something.
What the does that even mean?
Will only allow you to go one plane, as opposed to anywhere that you want. So he knew he wouldn't be going back to 1939, where he wanted to go. Instead, he was going to go wherever the Dial wanted to go, and it took him to when Archimedes was alive, and because Archimedes needed help in the siege of Syracuse.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, time travel.
Time travel.
And
there's the little magical bit there.
But it wasn't little. It was
massive.
Schlocky and exciting. That was classic Indiana Jones right there. Not so much the time travel, but the action and just the fun.
Yeah.
So you had Nazis shooting at ancient Europeans, ancient Greeks, and ancient Greeks throwing.
Romans?
No, it was Greek. It was Greek.
Oh, it was Greek. Okay.
Using arrows at ancient Greeks shooting arrows at a Nazi warplane. It was amazing. It reminded me. Frank, it's silly, but it reminded me of a movie on a Mystery Science Theater episode called Time Chasers, where they go back in time to the American Revolution period, and the bad guy is shooting U.S. soldiers with an Uzi.
Oh God!
while the soldiers are shooting at him with muskets. It's like it reminded me a lot of that. It's that's fun. That makes me happy. But that was great.
Dragons in the sky.
They called the planes dragons in the sky. So so they go back in time. Spoiler: Mads Mikkelsen's character gets killed. As it turns out, it was a complete loop in time because they found what's his name again? The ancient guy. Archimedes. They find his tomb, as they always do in these movies, and he's wearing a wristwatch. You find out when Mads Mikkelsen, and then Mads Mikkelsen steals the watch from the body, and then they go through the whole rigmarole. And then when he's dead, Archimedes takes the watch off of his wrist, and he puts it on his wrist. So he dies with the wristwatch.
He didn't. He gave it back to Indy. So I was a little confused at that.
Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny in theaters now. But the point is, they go back in time, and then they come back. So that was like the most supernatural moment of Indiana Jones, maybe of all time. Yeah. It's rivaling probably the Ark of the Covenant, but or maybe the drinking the blood in the second one, or the heart explode, or the heart coming out of the person and they're still alive in the second one.
We're not talking about Dental of Doom.
It's fine, but yeah, that's what makes this one different than all the other ones, excluding Temple of Doom, because in those other supernatural moments, it always kind of leaves like a question mark at the end. Like, what was that? Was that real? Was that always going to happen? It's always something weird. This was very like in deep with it, but I like that aspect. Did you like the time travel aspect of it?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Shit.
Why the fuck not?
Why not?
Yeah.
It's Indiana Jones. Why the fuck not?
Sure, it's fine. But yeah.
So need to wrap it up.
Yeah. So, Miss Pengrino, would you recommend Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny?
I mean, for indie fans, yeah, I would go see it. Do you need to go see it in theaters? Maybe not. Maybe at home. But if you're an Indiana Jones.
What is it? We didn't switch cameras.
No, this looks exactly the same.
You were saying, Miss Pengrino?
I was saying, if you're an indie fan, yeah, go see it. It's an Indiana Jones movie. You're gonna enjoy it.
You are, and I would also. It's a slight recommend. It's not. I can't give it the highest recommendation, but I do think it's worth seeing, especially if you're a longtime Indiana Jones fan like I am. You definitely want to go check it out. It's not the greatest. It's not even in the top 3. It does not outrank the original trilogy by any stretch of the imagination. But I mean, it's a solid story, and so it's just a little sluggish. It takes its time, and you just kind of have to be prepared for that, because
be prepared to sit there. But I mean, it's good.
It's decent. It's not a terrible film by any chance, by any stretch of the imagination. It's not
even how much we talked about it. You would think it might be.
No, it really isn't. It's actually really okay. We kind of
okay.
It's really okay. I mean, we were okay with it at the end of the day. It's not spectacular, but yeah. I mean, it's good. It's a good movie.
It's okay.
The beginning is a little weird, because every Indiana Jones scene or movie has an opening scene. A lot of CGI. A lot of de-aging, and it's a little off, but it's fine. It's great, and the ending is spectacular. All the way up to the very end. There's a spoiler that we're not going to mention because it's a great moment in the movie, and I want you to enjoy that. But
stop it!
And Mutt's dead. So with that, go see Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Its recommendation is yes. Go check it out. And now for a word from another sponsor.
Sauerländer Gurken, knackig im Biss.